Welcome to the 2020 Virtual Media Social, presented by Palmetto Media Connections. Our panelists include a few of our state's most notable media professionals. First, we have a man of many media hats. You've seen him on Live PD, at U of SC basketball games, on ABC Columbia, and you hear him on the radio, Mr. Curtis Wilson. Next, she's an award-winning journalist, host, and former reporter. She's currently a director of media content strategies at MP Strategy, Ms. Kara Gormley. He's an Emmy Award-winning chief meteorologist and the first black chief meteorologist for WIS-TV News 10, Mr. Demenis Brown. Next, she's an award-winning journalist, former radio personality, and host of the web-based talk show Coping with COVID, Miss Trey Taylor. The 2020 Virtual Media Social starts right now, and here's your host for the afternoon, Miss Michelle Harris.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Michelle Harris, a founding member of Palmetto Media Connections. Thank you again for taking the time to spend this time with us. The Palmetto Media, Media Social is something that we have done for several years now, and this is our first virtual social. So I hope if you were here in person, you would be having a lot of hugs and handshakes and fellowship. And so I'm sending that out to you virtually. Hopefully everybody is feeling that. We are looking forward to a very lively afternoon, an informative afternoon, where we will hear from our guests, Kara Gormley, Trey Taylor, Demenis Brown, and Curtis Wilson. Hey, is everybody? Hi, Trey. Hello, Curtis. And Demenis.
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right. And that's the kind of fellowship that we want. Everybody is just coming together. Now, before we begin, as if you've ever joined us before, you know that we start everything in prayer. So I want to send it to our illustrious leader, Lauren T. He is the head of Palmetto Media Connections, so that he can open us up in prayer.
I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us. And we're just here to have a good time. Like Michelle said earlier, you know, we're not here in person, we're virtual, but we still gonna have ourselves a good time. So let us pray. Father God, we just thank you yet for this day that you have allowed us to see. We thank you not only for who you are, but we thank you for the blessings that you have given us on this day. Father God, we thank you for your son, Jesus, who have allowed us to wake up this morning to see this day, for this is the day that you have made, and we all should rejoice and be glad in it. Father God, I just ask that you bless the panelists that has been so graciously to agree to do this event. We just ask that you just cover them and just continue to bless them. Not only bless them, but we bless the viewers as well. Bless PMC as we continue to get through this day, through this event. And we just give you all the honor, the praises, and the glory to you, the Most High God. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And Lord, bless the technology. Okay, let's keep the internet going. So we have got a lot in store for you, and we always thank you for spending time with us. So we have door prizes. That's why we wanted you to register, so we would know who you are to be able to give you door prizes. We've got gift cards. We've got virtual workouts. We've got all sorts of things, hopefully, that you will find interesting and attractive. So, and this is also going to be an interactive show. I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can be a part of this, how you can ask our guests questions, how you can make comments. And but before that, I want to give our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves to you. Many of you know their faces, either their voices or their words in print. But what I want each panelist to do, because most of the time when you're in media, you're telling other people's stories. So today we're giving you an opportunity to tell your story. So from each panelist, if we could get your current role in media or communication. So what are you currently doing? What was your first role in media? And something that people might be a little bit surprised to learn about you. So those are your three assignments. We will start ladies first. Let's see. Kara, you're up. Just let us know a little bit about you.
For sure. Now, I have seen Curtis and Demenis fairly recently, but Trey, it's so good to see you. I had to get that out of the way. I haven't given you a hug in a long time. Nice to see everybody.
Good to see you.
My name is Kara Gormley. I spent many, many years at WIS and also at the NBC affiliate in Raleigh for a number of years. My first job was at WTNY Radio and WWNY television in upstate New York, Canadian border, very cold, very snowy. And I'm currently the director of content and media strategy at NP Strategies, which is basically a communications firm that does everything from crisis communication to helping with social media and marketing for nonprofits.
Great.
And what's something that people might be a little surprised to learn about you? You're an Olympic skier? What that might not be?
A little surprise. I am a very real person, and I tend to be a bit probably goofy and energetic. So I don't know if anybody's surprised at anything by me. I have 3 boys. My oldest is in high school this year. My third was way more of God's plan than mine. And just have enjoyed being a mom more than I ever knew. I've always been a tomboy. I went to school in New England where people would call me Kara. Hey, Kara. I was always voted to be Auntie Kara. No one ever thought I would be married with children. So I guess to some that might be surprising.
Oh, wow. And it's interesting to hear that your oldest is in high school because, which I'm telling my age, I remember when you were pregnant with your first. So I was
know,
oh, wow.
Michelle, okay. It's ridiculous. And everybody, a lot of folks here might be familiar with Stuart Moore.
Yeah.
He's a WIS anchor that I used to work with a lot in the mornings. He used to joke that I was pregnant the whole time that he's working with me. But I just talked to him the other day, and they're expecting their second.
Okay. Breaking news.
Second boy. Yeah, breaking news. And second boy, and he's so excited. And so now having that voice of wisdom with the 3 boys, I had to tell him, enjoy every second. Everybody who's a parent knows that some of those days can be long. Really long, but the years do go by so quickly. And Michelle, I don't know how I have a high schooler either, because you and I, we don't age, right? We're not aging.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, their daddy's age, but yeah. Like I said, my daughter is now, she's 25, and people ask me, and I say, oh, she's older than me, so trust me.
Yeah.
So, that's it. So that is wonderful. Now, Trey, so ladies first, and Trey, hopefully you got a sip of water between your show and this show.
I did. Thank you.
An opportunity, again, your current role, your first role, and a little bit of surprise.
First role. Wow. Well, I did radio in college. I went to Hampton. And so I did radio in college, but probably my first professional, I was going to say it was WWDM when DM was in Sumter. But even before that, which is probably also the surprise, I worked at the Music Country Network.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Music. It was cool. It was cool. I worked Music Country Network. So that was even before, I finished college, and I worked in Sumter at DM when DM was in Sumter. Barbara Taylor was working middays. Her brother Dale Taylor was working. I mean, this is very old school. And also, trying to say, BB Brown worked afternoons for anybody who remembers that. Leroy Durant, Tucson, the Capricorn. I mean, that was a long time ago. And I was really intern. I was filing records. So saying records can even tell you how long it was. I was filing records, and when an overnight position came up, and actually it was because whoever was doing, Lightning Slim, I think he was calling, Curtis, help me with this. He was Lightning Slim when he was doing overnights, but then he called himself something else when he's doing the gospel show.
O.E. Martin.
O.E. Martin. I knew Curtis would know. Right? So he was O.E. Martin. He was O.E. Martin during the gospel. Then he became Lightning Slim doing overnights. So they put him on. They just, had him do gospel, and the overnight position came open, and I was there filing records. So they asked me, did I want that job? So this was after Music Country Network. So that was that. And the interesting thing, I guess, other than the fact that I did Music Country Network, I guess everybody knows I'm a vegetarian. But I love to eat. Don't let that fool you. I love to eat. I can eat a mean plate of broccoli, okay?
And she has a forest of okra plants in her backyard. But that's a whole other story. That's a whole other show.
I do. I garden too.
Okay.
and currently I am actually and I've done radio and television up and down the East Coast. I've worked with Kara and Curtis. I think, did we ever work together, Curtis? I don't think we ever worked together, but I've worked with Kara over at WIS Dominus, actually.
Yes.
I was I was the first lottery girl, and
I love it. I remember you saying. I remember you saying that. Yes.
Yeah, and it's so funny because people still today ask me about the numbers, and gosh, I hadn't worked the lottery. I don't know how many. Look, I didn't know then. I don't know now. I don't know. I don't even play. But anyway, currently I am producing, and I created my own show, Coping with COVID, with Trey Taylor. It is updates on the pandemic and information to help people thrive and survive COVID-19. It airs on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram Monday through Saturday at 2 p.m. And it just so happened that, I mean, like everybody, I was at home during COVID and saw that it was so much going on. And it's kind of a long story, but I ended up launching the show, and God blessed it. And we've got several sponsors, and it's being seen and looked at for by some national entities. So we're just trusting and believing God that whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. And I'm excited, and you guys can relate to this. I'm excited about the opportunity to have my own entity where I can do the kind of stories that I've wanted to, interview the kind of people that I've wanted to, because for years, when you work for somebody else, you can't do that. You have to do what people tell you to do. That's the funny thing about working for people. You got to do what they tell you to do.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm so grateful and honored and humbled that God has blessed me with this opportunity to really kind of spotlight some stories in our community and our world that need to be spotlighted, to give people the information, particularly on the internet, where so many people do get their news and information. A lot of people turn to the internet for news and information and not from traditional sources. So, and this medium is where there's a lot of misinformation. So to be able to bring some credible information, I'm just honored for the opportunity. So thank you. And so glad to see everybody. And thank you for asking me to come today.
And it is a great fellowship. And I will ask you all a bit about walking people through some very difficult stories and what that felt like for you. So now, Dominus, since you're the young hotshot of the group, we're going to make you wait for last.
I am not young.
Do you own any records?
You know what? My parents do, but I don't have any. I don't have any. But let me tell you, my mom and my dad are watching right now. But yeah.
Welcome the Browns. We welcome the Browns here. But what's funny is whenever I hear young professionals, my parents, I'm like, oh, here we go.
right. But I grew up with a lot of great records in the house back in Georgia. But
now they're.
That's right. Dominus Brown here. I'm the chief meteorologist at WIS TV right here in Columbia, South Carolina. I've been here for a little more than 3 years. I started my career in Eastern North Carolina at a place called New Bern at WCTI, the ABC station. And then I was there for about 4.5 years, then left there and went to Norfolk, Virginia and worked for the CBS station there, WTKR, for 5 years. And then I rode here to Columbia. And so far, things have gone great. I met some great people like you all. And in fact, Kara, we met back in March, right before the pandemic really started to turn up and things really started to go downhill for everything. So I was able to meet her and speak with her class there at the University of South Carolina. But, I'm trying to think of something interesting about me. I know some people have seen the commercials before. Yes, I can play the alto saxophone. And yes, I played the oboe for 2 years. Yeah. So a lot of people were like, what? Like saxophone and oboe? How did you do that? It was all in high school, and my band teacher wanted me to try something different. And so I said, okay. So when we were not in marching season for marching band, while I wasn't playing that alto saxophone, I played the oboe and I took lessons. And yeah, so I'm an oboe player.
Okay.
Just 2 years ago. I don't know if I can play it now.
Well, see, we could have had some musical accompaniment because
That's
Trey
right.
sings and then you play the saxophone and the oboe. Come on, I like that. And I was about to say, and records are now collector's items. So if you have any, hold on to them.
I got a bunch of them.
Go through them, hold on to them, dust them off.
Look, I got records, cassettes. I don't have any 8 tracks. I
was waiting to see if somebody went there with the 8 tracks.
I don't have any 8 tracks. Curtis, do you have any 8 tracks?
What are you trying to say?
I was trying to say, do you have any 8-tracks? I was just trying to ask, do you have any 8-tracks? I wish I had some, because they probably are.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to let people know before I go to Curtis that he is not driving, so he's always safety
Right.
first. So he is traveling, but he's not driving. So all right, Mr. Wilson, bring up the rear. Let's hear from you. Your current, your first, and then something surprising.
All right, let's see. Well, my current is quite a few of them, so we'll be here for a minute.
Okay.
ABC morning anchor over at ABC Columbia Channel 25. But then I do middays with the Big DM as well from 10 until 3. That's, Monday through Saturday. And then I'm also working with the county. I'm over at the coroner's office now, but about to make another change coming up real soon. That's just something you probably don't know about. At the end of the year, I'll be making a switch.
Nice.
Staying in law enforcement, though, staying in law enforcement. And also to working with USC, Benedict, Ridgeview, the SEC, and City of Columbia. There you go.
Okay, I'm tired.
Staying busy.
Oh my gosh. So what was your first role in media? Or first roles when you first started? How many jobs did you have?
I worked in radio in New York. That's where I started. I started in radio a long time ago. You guys going to know how old I am when I say this, but I'm 40 plus years in the business. So I started in New York in radio, and then
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then ended up in Virginia, Texas, South Carolina, back to Texas, and then back here again.
All right. So what's the most surprising thing, or what's something that people don't, it's a family show, but what might people be surprised to learn about you?
Let's see. What would they be surprised to learn about me? Well, I can't play an instrument. I can't sing. I can't dance. You're learning all that stuff right now.
Okay. So what's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Pizza.
Yeah.
No, lasagna.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, there we go.
There we go.
Here's the Bob Diggity.
That's wonderful. All right. So hopefully folks have been able to get to know a little bit better. So make sure that you can comment on whichever platform you are watching us on. If you have a question or if you have a comment, and we already hear that Curtis is a picky eater. Okay. Well, and that's not a bad thing. Trust me when I tell you. But yeah, if you have a comment, if you have a question, by all means, put those in and we'll make sure and get those on the screen because we want to ask the panel. But I wanted to talk a little bit about building your brand, monetizing what you like to do, and professional balance. And this is kind of we're all sitting. Imagine a red table where we're chatting, so anybody can jump in on this. But when you talk about building the brand that is you as an individual, Trey had mentioned working for someone else. Obviously, you represent media entities. But how do you go about building your individual brand? And anybody that wants to jump in, don't be polite.
Oh, well, shoot, as far as building your individual brand, you have to know exactly what you want to focus in on. Of course, if you keep it too broad, you're going to be going in every different direction. You're not going to be able to give yourself 100% to actually say who you are and what you can do. So first you have to focus on exactly what it is that you want to do. And then, of course, you got to learn the ropes about it. There's nothing wrong with, getting a mentor. There's nothing wrong about doing an internship, things of that nature, so that you can learn the business. Ask a lot of questions, too. That once you get there, then you have to have your beginning, your middle, and your end as to what you want to do, how you're going to do it, and then how you're going to sustain it. So it's a lot of work, actually. But then once you do it, it's so rewarding. Now, I know that's a broad answer, but I'm sure the rest of the panelists can fill in the gaps.
Well, I'm happy that you started, because I think I would say hard work, especially in this business. And I know everyone that's part of this conversation can attest to that. It is not an easy business to get into. And you have to pay your dues. I mean, some people, we all know maybe one or two that may have kind of gotten lucky and climbed the ladder really quickly. But I know for me and for a lot of my colleagues, it was a lot of long hours. And the thing that keeps you motivated, hopefully, is that you love what you do. And we're all storytellers here. And I think that it's safe to say that we all love people. I feel like this panel is extremely real. I know these folks in Dominus, even though we only spent a short period of time at USC together, I got a very strong sense of the great guy that you are.
Thank you.
So I would just say, be prepared to put in the work. And no matter what hurdles you come to, for me, getting into television, I'm not the glamour girl. I didn't get into it for that. I love telling stories. I loved writing. I love journalism. And so you're going to come to some roadblocks where there's always going to seemingly be someone that has more experience, that has the look that people are going for,
Right.
you name it. And people will try to knock you down, but you just got to keep getting back up and putting in the work.
Yeah. I would definitely, agree with both with Kara and Curtis say. The other thing I would say is that you do have to get into it because you love it. Because while it does look glamorous, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of hard work, and you have to have a thick skin because your whole life is exposed to everybody, and not only public, but also your peers and management, and it is just not easy. It's just not easy as it appears to be. The other thing I would say is that you really have to be grounded. You have to be grounded because when the promotion doesn't come, when the accolades don't come, you have to know that I've done it because I love it and this is really what I want to do. The other thing I would say as far as building your personal brand, you've got to get out there and get into the community, because this is not a position where you can just sit behind the mic or sit in front of the camera and then go home. It continues after that, because your connection with the community is everything. That's how you build your personal brand. You build your personal brand, I believe, by the work you do when you're off the air, the boards that you sit on, the programs that you MC, the community outreach that you do, the whatever work you're doing in your church or whatever, because that's where you connect with the people, and the people will determine how your brand building, then happens. So I think the community aspect of it is really huge. You have got to have some connection with the community. It doesn't end after your air shift.
And I agree with every one of you guys, because I think it's so important to get into the community. I think it's very important to get into the business, to have a passion for what you do. Otherwise, you're not going to survive this business. It's very competitive, as Kara was saying. I also think that people have to remember, you have to remember who you are and whose you are when you're in this business, because there are a lot of things that will come at you and people will try to turn you in different directions and try to change you. But you have to remember who you are as a person and to be yourself, but also remember your family. Why you got into this business in the first place. Also remember that brand part, as Trey was also mentioning, you are your brand. So I represent a television station, and you all represent TV stations and radio stations. So when I'm in public, even when I'm off of work, I'm really on 24/7.
Yeah,
when I'm at the supermarket, I'm on all the time. People know who I am. I could be wearing a baseball cap. I could be wearing my glasses. I have to remember that often when I'm having a bad day, that I really can't have a bad day if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dominus, I love watching you." And I need to shake their hands. I have to remember who I am and who I'm representing as well. Also on social media. And we might have some students out there. We might talk about this a little bit later, but social media is something that we have to remember. People are always on this, and they're always seeing what you're posting and what you're saying. So this is a part of your brand as well. A very important part of it.
Yeah. If I can piggyback on what Dominus said, Michelle, that's one aspect of it that many of us didn't start out with, the social media piece. With your not knowing album self sitting up there.
That's social media.
Right. Social media, you grew up in that. That was par for the course. That was not that way for the three of us. And I'm not trying to tell anybody's age. I just know that wasn't the same for the three of us. I mean, we had to grow into that and recognize. But even with that, as you said, Dominus, when you walk out your door, you are on.
Yes.
You are on. You are on at the grocery store. You're on when you're having a bad day. And everything you do and say matters. I mean, and not only that, everybody around you.
Saying amen.
Yeah, I was going to say
Right.
that too. I immediately went into show host mode. I started saying, but then I said,
I love it.
Take the wheel, child. Take the wheel.
I'm like, this is not my show. Let me mind my business. So, which is also hard. But yeah, and it even is that way for your family and friends that are around you. They have got, I know as a woman, Kara, I don't know if you experience this, when you're with your significant other or whatever, they've got to be secure enough to know people are going to come up and they're going to speak and
Right.
I'll introduce you, but it's not really going to be about you. It's going to be about me. And I have to stand here and have a conversation. You know, I never forget one day, and I don't remember what station I was with, and I went to Lowe's with my girlfriend, and every 3 feet we would stop, and she said, "I'm not going anywhere with you anymore." This is ridiculous, you know. But your life becomes your friends and your family's life too, and that's a part of it also.
And
yeah.
Oh no, go ahead, Curtis.
I was just going to say too, the other thing about this business is, you know, we're in an instant society nowadays. People want stuff quick, fast, and in a hurry. And when you talk about getting into this business, like Kara said, for sustainability, you have to be able to get the basis down first. You know, people have to learn how to crawl first, then walk, then run.
Yes.
A lot of people just going to go from crawling to running.
Right.
And if that happens, you're going to miss everything in the middle that's going to help you sustain and be successful in this business. Take the time to learn it. Take the time to cultivate yourself before you get to the point where you say, I'm a superstar, and you just started last month.
Yeah.
Learn it and roll on. That's just my
And you know what else? And learn every aspect of the business.
Absolutely.
Learn how to run the camera. I mean, I started on TV running the camera, doing audio. That's where I started in TV. And if you know how to do every piece, you know how it all comes together. Yeah. And you have expanded your profitability. You've expanded your bankability. Now, if
your employability,
exactly. Exactly.
But what I wanted to ask you all about too, because everything that you've said, I experienced all of that, but I'm wondering, where do you find that professional balance? Number one, from the fact that you represent an entity, so now you have this other thing that you do. I've worked for entities in the past, been welcomed, because your first priority is supposed to be this station that
Oh, Michelle's frozen.
She's frozen.
She's frozen.
A little bit.
You know what? Well, we get Michelle back. You know, when you were saying something about you can wear the hat and the sunglasses, they're still going to know you.
Yeah.
Having 3 boys, I've seen a lot of Avenger movies, and it's always boggled my mind when they put on hats and glasses. Nobody recognizes them. You could be like Iron Man or, you know, any one of them. But
exactly,
you know, here locally, you put on a hat and glasses, they still know who you are.
They still know exactly who I am. I mean, I can wear my glasses or sunglasses. I can wear my hat. I can wear. It doesn't really matter. People are going to know who I am. And you know, and sometimes it can be very funny because I can walk into sometimes a grocery store with my shirt and tie on and nobody says a word.
Right.
Nobody says a word. They don't even know me. But then if I wear, you know, I'm looking terrible in public, they know exactly who I am.
We depend on Dominus.
That's right.
Yeah, you know what the other funny thing is, and I don't know if anybody's gotten this. I know you, Darcy Strickland, Cynthia Hardy. I get every Black woman's, you know.
Yes.
I went to a fast food place in Sumter. And someone asked me if I was Darcy Strickland.
Serious. You're kidding.
Serious. I'm not kidding. It was the craziest thing. I remember the photographer I was with, I guess, because they were joking.
Yeah.
They associated, you know, WIS and LTX.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden and I just thought that was the funniest.
That's the funniest thing.
I love that.
Yeah. People often ask me if I'm Friendly from Watch Fox, you know, and so I think sometimes people just associate, hey, I've seen you on TV or, you know, I've heard you before. You must be that person. So
are we going to get really real on this? Because I got a story for getting really real.
We should get real. Go ahead.
All right. Here's my really real story. Michelle's coming back. Then we'll get back on the rails with this show. But everyone used to think I was, you know, are you Dondi Mercer? Are you Dondi Mercer? And she's a very sweet person.
Yes.
And I'm a faithful person, but sometimes I can be, you know, not as sweet. I was joking with Dondi. We sat in cubicles next to each other at WIS, and I was going through the McDonald's drive-through getting a Diet Coke on Elmwood Avenue. And the people were coming with the Diet Coke, and they were looking. I could tell something was going on. And then as I was driving away, I heard someone say, "Oh my God, it's Dondi Mercer!" And 5 people were in there. So I told Dondi that I said some off-color words and gave him the finger. And she was like, you know? And of course I didn't, and they were very sweet. But I had to get Dondi going for about 10 minutes.
I bet.
Did you really do that?
You're horrified.
You cussed?
I love that. That is funny. That is funny. Michelle, you can have it back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, first of all, who was in for technology? I thought we were
She's still
supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, so one good thing about having
technology
solo in the show is somebody. If we go out,
we can. Can Michelle type the question maybe in the private chat?
That's a good idea.
Can we do that?
Yeah,
I think I know where she was going. Go ahead, Trey. Yeah.
Well, I just posted that we still can't see or hear her.
Okay.
Her well, yeah. I don't know the questions, or one of us could have. And I think that's what she was going to say. One thing good about having us is that we kept the conversation going.
Well, I think she was talking about that balance. I think that's where she was headed. That work-life balance. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Me? Okay. Well, it can be very difficult when, this is working at a number one TV station, a legacy station, number one station in the state of South Carolina. It can be a different challenge for someone who used to be the second or third string, first, second, third string in the weather department. So coming here, it was a big wake up call to me of my role. And how much people do depend on me in those commercials that we have on the air, and how important it is to get it right as often as I can with the forecast. People recognize me all the time. It can be a very difficult thing at times when you do want to have a little anonymity, but you just don't have that part. So often for that work-life balance, I often travel out of town to go see my parents, or maybe I'll go to Charlotte or something like that to be with friends. I've gone back to Virginia as well several times, just to stay grounded. I think a lot of times when you see your billboard and you see the commercials on air, and I just feel like I'm just Demenis Brown from Locust Grove, Georgia, south of Atlanta. I'm just a country boy.
But you know what, Demenis? I don't think people realize the hours you work either. Yeah. And Curtis, when there's a storm and you're starting in the morning, I don't think people have a handle on what those.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't. Even when we had 2 weeks ago, we had Hurricane Sally to produce 12 tornado warnings that Thursday morning, and I think 7 confirmed tornadoes. But I had worked the night before, got off at 11:35. I think I had finally gone to bed at 2:00. I got up at 7 a.m. and the first tornado warning came up right before 8. I went into work and I worked a 12-hour day. I'm lucky I was able to get off, but I worked a 12-hour day. Not only that, my shift, but also helping to do tornado coverage. So it can be a very long day. It can be very tough. So there are some weekends that I'm just at home. Some nights I don't go out with friends. I have to find my peace and maintain that peace in order to do that.
Well, working in the number 3 or 4 station in the market. Thanks.
No shade on that.
So listen, getting up early in the morning, of course, that's like a tough thing for a lot of folks. And so being a morning anchor, you have to be able to put on a smile. You're going to have to be able to entertain. You're going to have to be able to inform all the time, because people expect that from you. So no matter what you're dealing with in your life, trials and tribulations, which is what we all deal with, you have to be able to still turn it on when you have to, and then turn it off when you can. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that if you plan on getting into this business, plan on knowing that people are going to be watching you. People are going to be looking at you. People are going to be listening to what you say. And when you're out in the public as well, even when you think somebody's not looking at you, they will be. Trust me.
But Curtis, tell folks too, you're not off when the morning show ends. You might be going to the radio gig. And the other thing is crazy hours for folks who are considering this business.
Yeah,
Right.
it is. And if you're getting into this business thinking that you're going to become rich, just think a little harder about that.
Right.
The money can come, but of course it comes with the market size that you're going to be in, and of course the work that you put in. Now, again, here it is. Are we still on? I don't know. I see the police stand by.
Yeah, we're still on.
Okay.
We're still on.
So it's now I'm losing my train of thought for that. So here it is. When you get into this business, again, you're going in with the frame of mind knowing that this is what you're gonna love doing. Because if you don't love it, it's gonna really actually turn out to be a job. So whatever you're planning on doing in life, whether it's gonna be media or whatever profession that you want to get into it knowing that you are going to love doing it and going to work every single day.
Yeah, the other thing is you do have to have with anything some work-life balance. And that means that maybe, as Dominis hinted to this, your social life isn't you're going out hanging out all the time.
Right.
You've got to give yourself that time. You've got to give yourself that me time. You've got to stay at the house and just woosah,
Right.
I mean, you really do, because it can be taxing on you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, draining to be on all the time. And and as everyone has said, you have to be, and you've got to be intentional about it. Right. So when you think about balancing work and home, you think about you've got to eke out that time for yourself. You've got to eke out that time for your family. And oftentimes that means choosing not to hang out. That means, you're staying home and just really enjoying that solitude of that time and being able to take a chance to wash some clothes and clean up your house. Because sometimes you're just in, out. And you look at, oh my God, what's this house look like? So you just got to make those choices. And they are choices that you have to make. I'm going to piggyback on what Curtis said, I know we've all probably, made some mistakes and made some missteps. I have. I mean, when you're young and you want to do some things and you're out there, but when you are coming into this business, no, more than anything, it is public. I mean, and of course, we've seen some people, even in movies, in theater, we've seen some celebrities that their whole life, good, bad, and the ugly, have splashed out in the headlines. And while we have a little bit of that, when we are talking about being in market-sized television and radio, you've got to be more conscientious about that, because now you're in a box, and you're in Columbia, you're in Augusta, you're in Charlotte, you're in DC, wherever you are. You are now thinking about the people in that market are looking at you and judging you, and management is looking at you, and what do you represent to the company?
And this goes back to what Dominis said with social media. So now partially what I do, I help with crisis communication and also media training, these types of things. And isn't it amazing as we watch and get ready for debates and, crazy political years, and it doesn't matter where you are, what market, what you're doing. It's amazing to me that high profile folks that still don't seem to get it, that you're out there. If you are in the public eye, that you're out there, and that, things that are posted or said on social media, they just don't get it. And some of the cases that I've worked on just recently, some young folks that have posted things on social media.
Oh yeah.
That they're ruining their future by letting whatever emotions or whatever thoughts come out in that quick second. You just can't do that.
Yeah, and you know what, Kara? I just think, and again, I'm selling my age here. I just would not even think to put I'm hard pressed to put anything on social media. Let's start there. But to put my whole everything, but that speaks to the generation that's used to pouring their hearts and minds and souls out on this platform, where this is not the platform to do that. And that's what I think we have got to get them to understand, that while you may have grown up pouring your heart out on social media, if you want a career, a successful career, a long career, a productive career, in the media, whether it be radio, TV, print, you've got to be more conscientious about what you post. Get a therapist, get a best friend.
Yes.
Work
Don't
somewhere
be everything on social media.
Right.
Absolutely.
Work it out somewhere else.
But you know what, you guys, and I've never really thought about it this way before, but especially a lot of the young folks see the YouTubers and all of these.
Yes, that's right.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that that's just not off the cuff ad-libbing.
Right.
But a lot of these shows are highly produced shows where people have come together and put a lot of thought into it. It's not taking, it's not the Facebook Live and just pouring your heart out. So if you are looking at that and you think about media and, the YouTube and creating a channel or a show, know that there's a lot of work and production that goes into a lot of that.
Yeah. Hey, Michelle.
Well, hey guys. Hey, how y'all doing? Listen, one good thing about having a show full of hosts is I was like, I can just take a break. And then when I get back, that's good. So thank you for that. Now, I jumped back in while you all were talking about social media, and there were a couple of things that made me think about that. A couple of thoughts. Number one, I spoke with a professional photographer some years ago who said that he would not recommend to young people that they go into photography because he said everybody has a cell phone. Everybody is a photographer now. And so making a living at doing that was just so much harder because images are coming from everywhere. So I kind of wondered about everybody being the storyteller, everybody being able to have a platform. Where do you see what would you tell someone who is looking at media as a career, but then sees all of these other platforms and all these other outlets? Is there a future, especially in traditional media?
Well,
anybody can jump in there with that.
Yeah.
I think there's a future. I definitely think there's a future in traditional media, just like with, this is the same thing radio went through when Sirius XM came out. People, I think, are always going to have a need, a want, a desire for local media because you want to know what's happening in your local community. I think that's why local radio has lasted in spite of XM Sirius, because people still have to hear a Curtis or whomever, they want to know what's going on. Yeah. But I do think with this social media platform is huge. And by the mere fact that every radio and television and newspaper entity also has a presence on social media, it shows that it is a viable source of communication. Again, when doing the research to launch Coping with COVID, I recognize, as I said in the opening, that there is a viable, huge audience that does not get their information from traditional sources. They come right here on social media to get it. Now, like I said, albeit it's often misinformation, it's a lot of innuendo, it's a lot of gossip, it's a lot of foolishness. But there is a future in social media. And again, look at Facebook and Instagram both have specific shows that they have launched on their platforms that are, as Kara said, fully produced shows, and even on YouTube. Let's talk about Netflix. Let's talk about all of these ancillary, non-traditional media sources that are viable and producing really good content. So while I never do think, I don't ever think that there will be I think there'll always be a need for local TV, local radio, traditional radio and TV. I think there is a big future in non-traditional.
My thing is, working at the #1 radio station in Columbia, South Carolina. I got you to minutes.
You gotta do it. Yeah, I love it, man. I love it.
It's one of those things that people want to know what's happening, like Trey said, in your area, in your neighborhood, in your backyard. These other shows, the syndicated shows, the Sirius, the XMs and all that, they can't do local stuff like we can. And so that's why it's so important. Of course, they can play the same songs that we play, but do they have the same people who are right here, growing up in this neighborhood, growing up in this town, that can tell you what's going on. That's important, and that's why, of course, it's going to be here for us to be able to do that. So yeah, there's some hope down the road for traditional radio or even TV.
I saw that question pop up.
Yeah, me too. I saw that one.
Yeah, Curtis, a question popped up. They're like, police, television, radio. How in the world do you do it all?
You know, you have to.
I want to know this.
It's like you have. For me, I don't like to stay here. I got to go up. I got to keep doing something to maybe reinvent myself. You know what I mean? And then you always have to have plan A, plan B, plan C. Because in radio, we know, or even television, you're only as good as your last show. If somebody buys that station, you could be out of a job. Or if there's something that you say that you shouldn't say, you could be out of a job. Things of that nature. So I always want to make sure I have a cushion. So if something happens with radio, I still got TV. Something happens with TV, I got law enforcement. Something happens with there, I got USC. I mean,
I need you to break it down even more. Like, how are you still alert and you're always smiling and energetic? And I always look at you and I'm thinking to myself, I'm exhausted. Just reading. Look at this. You're a policeman, TV anchor, and on all radio stations with JT. I mean, do you not sleep? Do you not need rest?
You're right.
You know, people, if that's the one question I get all the time, when do I sleep? But actually, I'm so accustomed to getting 4 to 5 hours a night. So I can run on that and I'm good. And I'm good for the rest of the day.
Caffeine?
No coffee.
Are you a vegetarian?
Right. Caffeine is your friend.
No, I got to have my meat. You can't see my belly.
So I want to talk too about, piggybacking on that question about time management and doing different things, transferable skills, okay? Because especially with Kara and Curtis, you all have made a foray into communications in other areas for state agencies, for advertising agencies. Talk about what transferable skills media has given you that you can take and apply to other careers off air.
Go ahead, Kara.
I think it goes back to, for me, storytelling. People would always ask me, and especially when I got out of television, did I miss it? And I tell folks I'm still telling stories, but in a lot of different ways. So with what I'm doing now, so just a quick background, left WIS, started getting into some legal marketing, which led to my own business for a number of years. And then with the 3 kids, trying to juggle work-life balance, getting back into things. And so I took a chance about a year ago. The woman who hired me is Heather Hoops Matthews. Heather Hoops, former WIS at MP Strategies. So we're doing a number of different things over there, and I'm working with a number of different entities and telling stories. So for me, it just kind of comes back to that. In addition, through the COVID times, we started some podcasts that gives me a chance to be able to chat and talk to people in a forum like this. And I think we all do that. You know, there's a little bit, you try to keep your fingers in all the different niches of the things that you love to do. So for folks who are on that fence, and going back to what Trey said about learning every aspect of the business, I really think that that's great advice. And to love what you do. And if you love telling stories, public relations, marketing, communications, it's the same thing. It might be a minute video for Instagram, and then you might still have that 3-minute story that airs on Facebook. And then it might just be a newsletter or a tweet, but it's all part of telling someone's story.
Absolutely. My thing too is personality and attitude. Those 2 things that get you far in life. And shaking hands, getting out into the community, meeting people, opening doors and connections. Trey knows about that. I'm sure you, Kara. And Dominus, he makes too much money. He doesn't have to get out. He just stays. But the rest of us, we have to hustle. We have to get out there and hustle and open up doors.
Curtis.
But yeah, personality, attitude. Got to get out there.
Yeah.
Well, see, I know for a fact that Dominus has started his modeling career.
No.
And when I saw that those professional photo shoots, I said, take those down, because as soon as the modeling agencies in New York see this, you're going to be gone.
So, oh my gosh, I'm such an amateur.
Those were great shots. They are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And were you doing that to polish your brand, or what made you take those photo shoots?
Yeah, it all goes back to the brand and who I am and who I represent as well. But it's also part of that because, I am also Dominus, the regular guy too. I'm not just Dominus, the meteorologist at WIS. And so that was just a part of my brand. And I'm not making any money off of that. One of my fraternity brothers, he's a photographer. And so, he was like, oh, you want to take some pictures of you? I was like, let's do it. And just to see different sides, the smiling side, the when I'm more serious, just to have a little bit of fun with it. But it's all a part of the brand though. And, okay. and we also thought about that. It was a part of the, that whole project. We've done it twice, but we want to do things that were of taste. We didn't want to do anything that would get me in trouble or anything risque, things of that nature. I have to think about that because I am my brand.
Mm-hmm.
No Speedos, he's saying. No Speedos.
Right. No Speedos, nothing like that. You know what I mean? But, you constantly have to think about that because these pictures will go on social media. I put them on my work pages as well. And so I often have to think about that over and over again, what you're posting, what you're saying, things of that nature. And so that also came into to play with those pictures.
Yeah.
I think there's longevity in this group because, as I said, it's about being real too.
Yeah.
And, there are some folks in this media world that it's just, I don't know, it feels
fake. Yeah.
And I just don't know, some folks, I guess, probably make it like that, but I just can't imagine. At the end of the day, like Trey said, you're meeting folks in the community, and it's about the community support. So if you're not real, if you just want to be on television for folks to see you or,
right.
To boost your numbers on whatever social media outlet, I would go for a different career path.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I agree.
That you guys are great, and you are. So we wanted to make sure to get that out. But Trey, you were about to say something?
I was just going to say, I was going to piggyback on what Dominus said, with being that, even though you are working at IS or wherever you're working, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 station in the market.
Right. That's right. Doesn't matter.
You still are you, and you still have to work on what is going to happen with me. Yes, you've got to do all the things you've got to do because you are representing whomever, whatever, company you're representing. But if you look at someone like me, like Curtis, like Kara, who stayed in the market after, after TV, radio, or whatever, or during TV, radio, in Curtis's case, what happens after that? Yep. What groundwork have you laid after you make the decision, or another opportunity might come to you? There are several right there from IS I could think of that have, left IS and gone into public relations. Right. So you've got to think about, yes, I am representing this television station, this radio station, this newspaper company, but what am I doing to build my brand? What am I doing to lay the groundwork? Because here's the thing that all of us know: if the wrong person says they don't like you, or you wear your hair a certain way, or a new GM comes in, or a new news director comes in, or the company gets sold. That happens all the time. And they want to bring their people in, or they have a different look. You're gone, no matter how great you are.
That's right.
Someone might be able to make a GIF of that. We were all nodding so aggressively.
Right, we know.
Might be able to have a GIF on that.
Personal experience.
Because that is the real thing. No matter how you do as well as you can do, but it almost doesn't have anything to do with that. That's why, one, as Kara said, you've got to love it, and two, and Curtis is an amazing example of this. You better make sure you got a bunch of stuff going on, because at any point you could be without your daggone job.
Right. And you have to build your resume. You have to build your resume. You also have to remember
beyond radio and TV.
Yeah, exactly. And remember also, don't burn bridges. Let me go back to the resume part though, because there are times, and I spoke to Kara's class. I mean, I love going to the community. So I know that if I'm not in television, I'll probably go and maybe teach, because I really like teaching about weather and things of that nature.
And if the Brown family, did you say your parents are listening?
Yeah, they're all. Yes.
Your parents are listening. That is a great backup for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Captivating. I teach a class at USC. It's not every semester, but without hesitation, never met Dominus, only saw him on television. He came over without hesitation and spent so much time with these kids, and they fell in love, great information, and were captivated. So
that's great.
Get back on it, but you're the real deal.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for saying that, Kara. I really had a great time with your students, and but I always think about those connections that I make in those schools and those school systems and those districts, because you just never know. But at the same time, about keeping those bridges intact. Yeah. That's very important, because we all know the broadcasting business, this industry, whether it's in radio or television, is still very small. A lot of people know each other. We just only talk about some of the connections just at WIS, just in this community. But I mean, just think about the people you've met in other states and other cities. They know you, you know them, they know things of that nature. You just never know when, that person that you yelled at or sent that nasty email to could actually be the person who determines whether or not you're going to get that next job, your dream job.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, not only that, but who you're going to be working with. I know in radio, we would always say this, we don't own that radio station. I don't have no beef with you just because I'm working middays and you working middays, because at any point we can be working together.
That's right.
We're working at opposing stations, but we can be working together after that 6-month non-compete falls off, So
to piggyback on that, Trey, as well, because what we do in the mornings, like myself, what's his name? Friendy.
Yes.
Leland.
Yep.
Dominus and LTX. What's his
Brandon.
name over there?
Brandon.
Yep. We are the 5 African American media personalities in town, and 4 of us are on the morning show. Of course, Dominus is doing weather at night. So what we do is we have a thread that we're all on. We stay connected.
Great. That's so good.
We do.
Pre-COVID, we met every so often to do breakfast. Post-COVID, we haven't been able to do that yet, but we still stay connected. And even though we're competition, we all know we're in this business together, which I think is cool.
You better know that. You better know that. Yeah.
But you know what, though? And it's interesting that you mentioned that, and Kara, we'll get to you with that too. But Curtis, what you mentioned about being deliberate about making those connections, because part of, and Lauren will talk a little later about why he had the heart to start Palmetto Media Connections and pull the media social together, but being very deliberate about saying our jobs may not allow us just by happenstance to get together. Our schedules may be crazy, but we are going to take some time and set aside that time so that we can make those warm connections. And Kara, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, and this is more of a personal connection that Curtis will jump on, but so now outside of being on the media, I can't tell you, and we work with companies all over the country, how many media types, former television, radio folks are working for really big corporations doing communications. But to that point, Curtis, I was on a call with a new company, big technology company out of Raleigh, and one of the heads says, do you know Sarge? And I said, Sarge, and Sarge is kind of the nickname of this guy, Rich Wandover, who has worked, he is a photographer, and he's been at all the stations. And so, even when you're out as a reporter with a photographer, not that so much of that goes on anymore, but the connections you make with each other at a television station, or, the getting together for breakfast or lunch, it is such a small world, whether you're in the media still or like me out, and still there's that bond of when you're in the media, radio and television, it's like you've gone through something together.
Yeah.
You've got battle scars, right?
But you really do. I mean, you bring up a good point with that. I mean, we've all gone through those long hours and then working to those jobs where you were not making any money, and you're just trying to survive, and you've gone through some of maybe the heartbreaking stories and reporting those. So yeah, you have battle scars in a sense. You really do.
Or Dominus, when everyone's going one way because there's a storm coming and you are driving
right, opposite direction.
Thinking, geez, I wonder if that hotel in Myrtle Beach really can withstand a hurricane.
Let's go check it out. Right.
We're about to find out, right?
Right. That's right.
Well, I wanted to take a quick break to make sure that we thank our viewers for tuning in to us. We do have some giveaways. Like I said, our first giveaway is going to be a Visa card, a Visa gift card, and it's a Visa e-card. So And our first winner, according to the team, yes, is Karen Alexander. Karen Alexander, thank you so much for always supporting us and for supporting us with this. And the team is applauding you. Thank you so much for joining us with that. We do have a couple of more giveaways, so make sure that you stay with us with that. But before we go to, we actually do have a commercial break or intermission, but I wanted to ask our panel, just be thinking about who is your celebrity, who is your brush with fame? What celebrity have you met that made you go all super fan? Or would like to meet, maybe, I don't know.
You want us to answer that now or after the break?
Right now. We can do it right now.
Well, I'm gonna ask if I could answer now. So I'm sitting here drinking this water. I've got to go. I gotta take a break. I gotta take a break.
Being real. Yeah. Okay.
I gotta take a break. Okay. So, you know what? I guess I'll say I was thinking about two things. One year I met Patti LaBelle, and I met her a couple of times. And she and I had a conversation. Like I said, I had met her here in South Carolina. Then I met her in Philly. And then I saw her again at, whose funeral was it? Oh my gosh. I can't think of it was a celebrity's funeral. I can't think of who it was. But anyway, and I just she just kind of came up to me and she just said, very naturally, she just said, and kind of took me by the face, and she said, don't let anyone make you question who you are. You know, she said, you just continue to be strong and beautiful and resilient. I mean, she just had a moment with me, and I don't even know, you know, she just said, you know, women in the business, she said, we're often ostracized and looked at. If you're strong and you're resilient, you know, they want to call you the B word, but I just want you to be just focused and just keep doing your thing. And that was just such a beautiful thing for me. You know what I mean?
Poured into, yeah.
It did. It really did. And then I have a funny, which is not a super fan moment, story about Maya Angelou. When I was working in Raleigh and my son was about 4 years old, I was told I was going to interview Maya Angelou. Well, like I said, I had my son and he, you know, came with me everywhere. Well, he had gone into the auditorium. It was with Chuck Davis, who was a big dancer in the Raleigh-Durham area. So my son was in the auditorium watching the show. I was told I was going to interview Maya Angelou. So I walked up to her and I said, you know, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I'm really looking forward to it. So anybody who knows, she's just very stately. She says, I did not agree to do an interview. I said, oh, okay.
Right.
So look, I curtsied. I said, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I felt this big. So I walk out, and after the performance, I see a crowd of people coming, and in the front of it is Maya Angelou, and she is holding my 4-year-old son's hand.
Wow.
They are walking toward me. And she said, and supposedly during the performance, he got scared and she picked him up and she had him with her. Now, when she found out, I was like, hi, remember me? Right. I'm the person that... So we ended up taking a picture together. And I wish I had known I was going to say this because I have the picture. We ended up taking a picture together and it ended up going into the Raleigh News or whatever it was at the time. But she did not want to take a picture with me. Okay. She wanted to take a picture with my son. Right. I just had gotten a picture by default, you know. Right. So, oh my gosh. So that's my story.
But now that's fun. Now, and producers have told me we are going to take everybody else's super fan story after the break. Okay. So we do have a quick break for you, and everyone else, stay tuned with us. We have got a lot more information for you, and we also have a great video that we would love for you to see about Palmetto Media Connections. Stay with us.
Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and community together, hosting annual socials. We would like to thank you for attending this year's virtual social. Find and like us on Facebook at Palmetto Media Connections and subscribe to the Palmetto Media Connections YouTube channel, connecting media and communities together. Palmetto Media Connections. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Established in 2010 with past national media guests like Janice Huff, Mitch Faulkner, and Dolores Washington, and local celebs like Cynthia Hardy, Miranda Parnell, Vaughn Gaskin, Kevin Cohen, Vanzell Hare, and Makita Pearson, and hosted by Darcy Strickland and Tony G. Palmetto Media Connections in the past has distributed to the community over $1,000 in gift cards. Connect with us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together.
And everybody and their brother was in there.
Oh, wow. Okay. And one of the things about it, if you've been with us before in past years, that video is showing you a few of the pictures that we had. And it actually all started in 2010. There have been so many people who have helped us along the way getting that first one out. The first media social together was Brandy Cummings, who I believe is now in California. And then the wonderful late, great Frederick Knight. And we had an absolutely wonderful time. And so, again, we want to make sure that we have pictures from this year too. We're not going to let this pandemic stop us. So make sure that you are taking your selfie. Take a picture of yourself in front of the screen, just like that, and share it on the platform. You can post it on our page, the Palmetto Media Connections page. Get it to us. We would love to share that. We want to make sure that we still have that connectivity, even though we're going virtually. Now, do remember, you see on the screen now how you can connect with us on Facebook, how you can connect with us YouTube. We have so many other things going on. The social is our main event, but there are other things coming up, community events and that sort of thing that we want you to be a part of as well. So if you work in any aspect in media, you don't have to be on television or on the radio. If you're in print, digital, if you're a student, we still want you to be a part of everything that we are doing. So we want to make sure about that. Now, let's go ahead and give away another prize. We have several people who have names in the hat. Let's see. Our next prize is going to be something I need a great deal, a virtual workout. For the month of October, you get to work out with Mary H. Jackson. She does wonderful Zoom workouts for you, and it's a way that you can stay fit during the pandemic. And the winner of this wonderful prize is Aaron on the air. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Aaron is always so supportive of what PMC is doing. And so we are happy to be able to share that prize with you. Aaron on the air is our next winner of our virtual workout. Thank you so much, Aaron. We appreciate that. Now, we had a question out there to our panel, which was the celebrity that has made you go super fan, or who, if you haven't met them yet, who would you like to meet? Somebody, please, whoever has Denzel Washington's number, tell him to give me a call. All right. So who would like to take it next? Who made you go all super fan?
Let's see. I had the opportunity to meet Whitney Houston, pre-Bobby Brown era. Backstage, in the dressing room, just me and her eating pizza. And it was like, this was my moment. And then freaking Bobby Brown came along. How did that happen? I don't know. Janet Jackson was another one. I had the opportunity to meet. I was right there. Janet
I'm starting
Jackson.
to see a trend here, Curtis.
What's that?
Right. So close.
You know. And then Halle Berry. Remember when she came here and did the movie? I forget the name. It was the football movie.
Yeah.
Came through to do the movie. And that was crazy because Harper's was around at that time. And Halle was trying to talk to me, but I just got engaged. So it was not that. Anyway, it's just a story of my life, though. I'm still happy, though.
That's a whole nother story.
I think I read she wrote something about you in Elle magazine during an interview or something.
See, there you go.
The one that got away.
For sure.
Right.
Oh, I met Trace Atkins, too, by the way. Now, with him, he had sung the national anthem at the SEC basketball tournament. And then he came out, and I wanted to get a picture with him. He's kind of tall, and he's you're not a problem. Yeah. Wait, now he's talking all deep and low. Right. Now I got to talk light because his voice is so low. So I had to talk light. Thank you, Trace. I didn't want to be embarrassed.
I like that. So what about you, Kara?
I don't know. It's so weird. I don't know if you guys ever feel this way, but when I'm in work mode, I don't feel like I can approach people. I interview them and I don't feel, like they're superstars. If I wasn't working, I'd probably be too scared to talk to them. I did have this phase, though. A cool thing that happened was there was this period of time where I was interviewing James Brown so much. Like, this is back in Dominicus. We used to have News Hawk. Have you heard about News Hawk? It was a helicopter.
Not at all. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there was one time where I was actually flying down to meet James Brown, and when the Colonial Life Arena opened up, he was the person who opened it up.
Oh wow.
And he had his first show in forever. So I actually got a chance to dance with James Brown.
That's awesome.
We got to see the moves. Come on, Kara. Let's see them.
I know.
Come on, get on the
bad.
We need pictures.
You say you can't dance. I got some pictures. Just saying. But this was the other cool thing. I interviewed him so much and we got to know each other. He sent me like a James Brown doll, like a bobblehead thing that danced and you could play it. It was so cool. All right, sorry, I'll get off that. Christopher Reeve, that he's a little probably old school for Dominicus, but he was formerly Superman.
Of course, in the 80s. Yeah.
He and Susan Audet, who used to be the anchor, one of the evening anchors at WIS, I had the opportunity to do this fundraiser to raise money for kids, athletes that have special challenges and wheelchairs and so forth. And he came down and he was part of the fundraiser. So we spent a couple days with him. And then the craziest one that really silly, back in the day, we used to have this back to school bash at WIS, and they used to bring in all like these NBC folks. And I think it's Saved by the Bell. I never watched the show, but Screech, do we all know who that guy is?
Screech, yeah.
He's gotten into a lot of trouble.
He has.
All right?
Yes.
But we had a limo, and we had Screech, and his best friend was, help me out, Ron Howard's son.
Oh,
so
wow.
Screech and Ron Howard's son, and we had to take them out on the town. So we took them out in a limousine into 5 Points. And so all the young folks like hanging out with Screech.
That's pretty cool. By the way, cool. Christopher Reeve's son works for Good Morning America, ABC.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, I've had a couple of opportunities with the National Association of Black Journalists conventions to meet a lot of celebrities, run into them, take pictures. But before I did all of that, I was an intern at WCBS TV in New York back in 2006. I was a weather intern there, and I was there for 2 months, a great internship. And the last day of my internship, it went well, but not the best way I wanted to go as I was ending my time there. So I was about to get on the elevator to go back down and catch the bus to go to the subway, to go to the ferry to Staten Island where I was staying. And as I went to the elevator's doors opened, and there was Katie Couric. Boom. And Katie was about to start her time as the evening anchor on the CBS Evening News that summer. So she was just still training, just getting all the ropes through the building and that sort of thing, and getting everything ready for that show to debut. And so I remember being in awe as a college student, seeing her walk off the elevator. And I knew at that moment, I said, okay, you have nothing to lose. You're headed back home. This is your last day in New York, pretty much. You need to ask to see if that's really her or if she'll just take a picture with you. So I just remember saying, Katie, and she turned around as she was walking away. She said, yes. And I said, I know you don't know me, but today's my last day. I've been an intern at WCBS down the hallway. Is it okay if I take a picture with you? And she said, yes. So she dropped her bag. I guess it was her purse, whatever she had. And she dropped it in the middle of the hallway. And I'm sure it was probably like, I don't know, maybe 30 feet. We walked to a different office. So she left her bag in the middle of the hallway in front of the elevators. And we took this picture, found a random person to take 2 pictures. And then we had the best conversation about weather, where I was going to school. And so to me, that was like in awe that someone of that stature, being the now CBS Evening News anchor who previously worked at the Today Show, that she would actually take the time for a little measly intern like me just to say hello and just talk and take a picture with
Dominicus, I had a Katie Couric experience too.
No way.
We were interviewing some folks, Matt Lauer and Brian.
Okay, yeah, right.
But I got a chance to meet Katie along the way, and it was so weird. Then we were doing some tourist things, walking through Central Park. She was on her bike. We bumped into her again.
Wow.
And she was kind of looking, and she recognized and whatever. And then we bumped into her again. And she stopped. And I said, I promise you we're not stalking you. But she
Right.
Columbia, South Carolina. And she stopped and talked.
I love it.
You know,
Awesome.
I love hearing your story because it's always such a pleasure when you see someone and they're seemingly good people.
Right.
Very personable.
I want to know what happened to the bag, because you mentioned the bag.
It just sat in the middle of the hallway. No one touched it.
Okay,
But I will say this one, coming to Columbia, Craig Melvin is a star. Craig Melvin is a star. And so I remember hearing some word that he was in town for an event, and I was working that, I guess, the day before, and they said, he's coming to the studio. And I was like, what? Craig is going to be here. So he came into Craig has always been awesome. So every time I see him, I'm in awe of him and what he's been able to do all these years now, being in New York and never forgetting his roots. Never forgetting his roots.
Real deal.
He will say Columbia on the Today Show. He will say WIS. He will say something about his high school. I love that.
Yeah.
By the way, Kenneth Moulton, who's on ABC in the morning, he also says Columbia a lot. And Ainsley Earhart, who's on Fox News, she talks. I'm just throwing him out since he's doing it.
Right. I love it, Chris.
Yeah, I remember when Ainsley was here. I remember she was at LTX, I think, right?
Yes.
She was and of course I worked with Craig. Craig. So I remember working with Craig. Yeah. Craig did. Actually, they took awareness from me to give it to Craig.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
I mean, they were grooming him.
Ava Pilgrim. Do you remember her? Ava Pilgrim?
Oh yeah.
She went through WIS. I don't know if she's at LTX too.
She's on ABC, the morning show. She does the weather.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's awesome. Awesome.
So
So
that's great. All right, we'll ask Michelle again.
We'll ask Michelle again.
We were talking so much, I didn't realize she was gone.
Yeah. So I think one of the questions are, what would each of you tell your 20-year-old selves? Well, Dominus, you want to start last year?
Is that like yesterday?
My boy's figure, right? Oh man. I'm trying to think, what would I tell my 20-year-old self? So I guess I would have been at college at University of Georgia. I had an interview with a friend of mine who has a YouTube channel, and he asked me what would I have told my 16-year-old self. But I think my 20-year-old self, I probably would have just said, hey, you got this. I had a lot of doubt that I could actually be a meteorologist. When I was young, I liked weather, but never knew a meteorologist, didn't know how to spell it. Had no one who looked like me in Atlanta. We got Atlanta television, except for a couple times, but they would never stay in the market when I was very young. And plus it wasn't very easy to send an email like it is now, or drop somebody a message on Twitter to say, hey, I watch you. Do you have any advice? You have to mail a letter, and hopefully that person mailed it back to you.
Right.
So I think I probably would have told myself, even at 20, that you got this. You can actually be a meteorologist, and you can actually do this job. It took me several years. I was a journalism major. I said, I don't want to make math and science a career. I'm okay with it, but I don't think I can make it as a career. And then finally, when I had my first internship at WSB in Atlanta in 2004, that's when I knew. I was like, I was a news intern at the time, but I got into the weather department and asked some of the meteorologists questions about that career. And finally, it was like, okay, this is what I need to be doing.
Wow.
So, I would have told myself, you can do it. Have more confidence in it. Just do it.
What about you, Kara?
I am very similar, I think, to Dominus. It was a little bit longer. 20-year-old. But looking back, and I hope some young folks are on, because man, you just don't have that confidence.
Right.
And again, it's a tough business. I had this woman, I came in after Dawn D. Mercer, very, popular. They were starting a new show. I was taking over the morning show spot that she had. And, I didn't have certain looks. I didn't have certain things. And we had some pretty harsh consultants. One of them came down the hall my second day off the air, and she looked at me in person. This is no lie. She reminded me of Janet Reno, like just a really tall, kind of very serious person. And she looked at me up and down, and she said, well, at least you're better looking in person than you are on television. Well, at
Whoa.
least have something to work with.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you're young and you hear that stuff,
Yeah.
it really, you start second guessing yourself.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, no matter who you are, if you're real and you love what you're doing and you really want to do this, don't give up. And you're going to run into some interesting folks, but don't let them dictate your future. I mean, you really do have this. But you can't sit back. You may have to work a lot harder than other folks, but man, you can do it. And I think that's what I would say. And I would take away some of that, the nervousness or trepidation that I felt, and just say, just keep doing it. You can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Curtis?
Well, first I want to tell Kara, you're beautiful inside and out, and always
She
happy.
is.
You
She
are.
is.
You
She
are.
is.
Again, I wasn't throwing that story out there, but it is indicative for that. But thank you, Curtis. I love you. But I throw that story because it is true. I mean, people, like Trey said, you got to have that thick skin, or maybe Kurt, I don't know who said it, but you have to have a thick skin because people can be brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Curtis. Go ahead.
You got it. For me, it would be, of course, save your money and invest wisely. Because in this business, again, you're only as good as your last show. And that means, again, if they change ownership or they say, okay, we're going to hire somebody else for this position in this role to take over, whether it's TV anchoring or reporting or being a radio personality, you have to be prepared to be able to sustain yourself until you find that next position for you. So, save your money and invest wisely. Now, of course,
you know what, Curtis, go more on that, because so I went kind of from the look standpoint, but someone can come in, or Trey talked about my show went away.
Yeah.
And I think it's so easy for a lot of us to just say, okay, and give up. And you can't give up.
You're right.
No.
You're right.
You got to stay at it. And the thing about it, because if you love this business, learn every single thing about it. Trey said this as well.
Yeah.
Because see, the more you know, the more valuable you are to that.
Right.
To that
That's
company.
right. That's
So
right.
learn as much as you can. Save your money, invest wisely, and again, be true to yourself as well. And remember, anybody can say with a record, this is the weather, blah, 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 blah. But what can you bring personality wise?
Yeah.
Do it in a way that it's yours and own it, so that people say, I got to hear what he's going to say next. I got to see what he's going to do next, or she's going to do next, or I don't want to miss it. That's the personality that you have to bring to it. Make people feel like I got to watch. Make it interesting for them. Don't make it boring. Which is what all of us do right here, right now. This whole crew right here, we keep it exciting, entertaining, and informative.
Yeah.
And be real. That's a good thing. Trey, what about you?
Well, you know what I would say, definitely what everybody else said, but Dominus said something earlier that I want to expound on, and he said something about burning bridges, but I want to expound on that to say, don't take everything personally. I know I made this mistake early on. I mean, I got in my feelings about a lot of things and ended up, and this kind of goes back to that Patti LaBelle story, battling with management because I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I have ideas and I this and I that, when you are working for someone and you might have an idea, you might have an opinion, but you've got to do what people want you to do. And one thing that I really learned, and Curtis, you would remember this, there was a time in radio where they wanted more music, less talk, and they had us do more liners. There was the early days of radio, you could just talk and talk and talk and say whatever you wanted to say. But then there came a time when it was more music, less talk, and they wanted you to say the same thing, your name, the call letters, and the next song, and get on out of there. And oftentimes when we get those constraints, when we feel like we're being put in a box, we want to fight back. Learn how to navigate, learn how to be creative, learn how to work within the box that you're given, because there is where you can find your creativity. There is where you can find your strength. Not to mention you're doing what the people tell you to do, and that's who's paying your bills. That's the whole one thing. But the other thing is there is something to working within the confines of what you're being given, because that's where you can really find out, how can you make this mine? How can I make, if I'm saying, if all of us are saying the same thing, you're saying, Kara, I'm Kara Gormley with K97.5. I'm just throwing it out. Curtis Wilson is saying, I'm Curtis Wilson with K97.5. Demetrius Brown is saying it. I'm saying it. But how can you say it a little bit different and say the same thing? That's where the sweet spot in your creativity comes from, and it grows. So I would say that to my 20-year-old self was just calm down, do what the folks tell you to do,
right.
and figure out how you can work within the confines of what they're giving you. Because again, you know, something I would tell my son is that you, and Curtis said this, you don't have to be the most talented sometimes. You have to be the person that's easiest to work with.
Right.
And I think sometimes when we're young and we're excited and we're motivated, we just want to break through and break down the walls. And you just got to stand back sometimes and just do what the folks tell you to do.
Because, you know, in my first job, I remember one of my news directors, he and I didn't really get along. But I remember one time he wanted me to do something, and I remember telling him, it's not in my job description. And he said, oh, yes, it is. You know, it's in this contract. I can do whatever I tell you to, you know, you have to do whatever I tell you to do. And I remember at that time feeling defeated, but I also took that moment to use my skills and get better at it. It was something about shooting or you know, being a photographer. I was also for a one-man band in my first job. And so, you know, during the week, when I wasn't doing weather on weekends, I was shooting the story. I was reporting. I was editing. It was something that I did not want to do, but I ended up doing it anyway. And I just used that as, hey, all right, it's just something else I can add to my resume or whatever I can do to my skill set. And so you just never know. So sometimes it's just worth just bite your tongue. Yeah. Go ahead and doing it, because you never know what that benefit may be.
Exactly. You are going to benefit from it because it's just building your skill set.
Yeah.
It's just building you. Yeah. So definitely that. I see Michelle says, what's the most difficult story you ever walked the public through? What about you, Kara?
I mean, there's so many. That's the one thing I do. There are certain times, especially living in Lexington, South Carolina, that I like to come back and do some reporting. You know, there was a case of a young girl who disappeared. They never found her. Her family's still looking for her. And, you know, it was very hard for them because there were two cases that were similar at the same time, and kind of the wealthier upper middle class families seemed to be getting some help, and these folks who didn't have much didn't.
Right.
So some of those open-ended cases still eat at me. You know, I have to tell you, a lot of the racial issues for me coming from upstate New York, and I don't know, I guess I lucked out. I just didn't have to confront a lot of things. It just wasn't part of my life. So when I came down here, and I worked with a couple of really great friends, African-American photographers, and some of the behind the scenes stuff of what I saw and what they went through. I mean, I was at the State House where people were screaming ridiculous things. Our lawmakers, that's difficult. And then of course, going into anyone's worst day of their life, soldiers who were killed in the line of duty, and going into the family's house and talking to folks on the worst day of their lives. And then I just feel so blessed, and this is where I think it's a total God thing. And I feel that, you know, meeting all you folks, I really do. It's just not a coincidence, but I just felt so blessed that this community, this area gave me a chance, and these folks shared their stories. So I'll leave it with that, because I know you all can expound, but just I take that very seriously, and just appreciate this community so much.
Yeah. What do you think, Curtis? Was it radio or TV, the hardest story you had to ever navigate the public through?
Actually, for both, because, you know, being in law enforcement and then also dealing with the media aspect of what was going on, let's say when law enforcement, there's an incident that takes place where somebody gets shot or unjustly brutalized or something like that. And then you have the community who's upset and there's an uproar. And then you got the law enforcement side when you know it's only a small percentage of officers who are doing something bad. But it was blanketed to all officers. I'm in that middle trying to explain what officers' job responsibility is and how it can be difficult, especially when it's one of those things where it's a split-second decision and an incident can go from 0 to 100 in a matter of just that moment. And then you have the other side where they're saying, I don't care what happened here. This is what took place from the community aspect. Being in the middle and trying to being able to calm the nerves and fears of folks to get everybody to understand this is an isolated incident. It's not every officer who's bad. Right. I don't care. Black Lives Matter, officers, blah, 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 blah. So in the middle of that, it's a tough thing to do, but you have to stand through it. And of course, try to explain to folks on both sides why the community upset, why officers need to change certain things that they do. Make sense? We all have to come together. It's one of those things. Like I said, as an officer, we're human beings first, but we also have to understand we have a big responsibility. And we have to take that responsibility serious when we go into these communities. You can't go in guns blazing. You have to be able to use your mouth. You have to use this in order to take an incident and de-escalate it. Because those camera phones where people are shooting stuff, what happens is they're getting it from the actual incident that takes place when somebody gets hurt or dies.
Right.
They're taking it from the incident where, can you please leave this area or whatever. And then it grows and it just gets out of place. But it's a tough position to be in, but it's something that I'm here to do because it's my job.
Right. So it's been most difficult for you since you've been affiliated with law enforcement.
Right. And so having both sides, makes it pretty difficult.
Yeah. What about you, Dominus? Has it been a weather story for you?
It's been both news and weather. I think, when we talk about weather, there have been some storms that have impacted areas so bad that is when you go back into that community and you've seen the tornado damage and you know that 2 doors down, 2 people, a husband and wife, were killed. This happened this year, the day after Easter in Orangeburg County. And you talk to their family and you're like, I would like to go talk to their family on television, but I think it's the wrong thing to do. I'm just going to go and say hello. And that's all I did. I went to say hello and I'm thinking of you all. But that can be tough. I remember in Eastern North Carolina after Hurricane Irene came through and people were flooded out of their homes. And I was reporting in those areas and they had nothing left. And I had to turn a story that day. Also, when I think about another one with Hurricane Hugo, I had an opportunity to do a 30-year anniversary special with WIS last year, and I had a chance to go to the coast of McClellanville and talk to the folks and rehash and relive some of those stories that they bring up a lot of emotions for a lot of people when you say certain names of hurricanes and storms. With news, though, I had an opportunity to anchor and report and be a photographer and do sports. When I was in Norfolk, I've done it all. But in Norfolk, I remember one day I was doing a weather story and we were headed back from Virginia Beach to Norfolk. And I got a call from our assignment editor and she said, Dominus, I hate to do this. I said, what are you about to tell me? And she said, I need for you to go back to Virginia Beach. There's a terrible accident. It's a fatal car crash.
Oh my God.
So you got to be kidding me. She said, you're the only person who I have left, only crew. The news director wants you to go out there. I said, okay. So I went out there and learned, 2 high school students driving too fast. The passenger was not wearing a seatbelt. They crashed into a tree. The passenger was killed. The driver survived. And we were there right before the family of the victim arrived. And I don't typically do stories like that, so that was just unnerving for me. And we ended up leaving that scene because, it was just too much. And then I think also one other story this year, Judy Gatson, our great Judy Gatson at WIS, she and I had an opportunity to host a 2-week lifestyle show on WIS at 3 p.m. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. But the second day of the show, we had the news of the young girl in Casey to disappear. And then I know you all remember that story vividly. And you all know the outcome, but they still wanted me to co-host that show that day. And so, it was just tough to be there and to be a part of that coverage. And, you're getting every emotion that's coming to you and all others who are watching you in the newsroom, but also on television and seeing messages. So it was just a tough time. So I've dealt with it on weather, both sides, weather and news.
Yeah.
Have you all ever had that moment where you're covering a story, and Curtis, you have it, I think, probably every which way, but you're covering a story. I remember being on the side of 126. They were looking for a fugitive. Murder was the allegation. And then all of a sudden it comes to you like, what if that person pops out right here, right now? Like I'm
yeah, right.
Like, I'm sitting here and the photographer's, doing his thing or her thing. And what if they pop out right here, right now? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you it wasn't a hard story. Well, one was hard. I remember I was working in Charlotte at a place called Traffic Patrol. And this was, it was a company that they would supply traffic and news for several different stations. And you would go up in the helicopter and, look at the traffic and then report it. So I was doing Traffic Patrol the day of 9/11. So I remember, and I was actually doing news for the NPR station. I wasn't up in the helicopter, I was doing news. So I remember that, just thinking, is this a hoax? Is this real? Is it just isolated? And then minute by minute, it became, it's happening here. It's happened here. It happened here. It happened here, and then having to, and at NPR, you have to be very straight, and it was so funny because I was supplying news for some different stations. So I had to be different, different personalities, but having to be straight and unemotional with the NPR, that was so challenging. The other thing I'll say is I was at the State House when they brought the flag down. Yeah. And of course, I was there with a million people, but I was reporting for the gospel station. And it was just so many emotions that day, and the emotions from other people. And I was live. So I had an African-American man on one side of me and a white guy on the other side of me as the flag was coming down. And I'll just knock on wood or something. I had actually won the Star Award for that reporting. Right. And I'm asking both of them at the same time, what are you feeling? What's going on right now? And in the background, you hear everything from na, hey, bring it down, so we shall overcome. That was such an emotional day. I tell you, that was such an incredibly emotional day because it was such solidarity in that vast area. And you talk about Craig, and Craig was there, and he wasn't on the Today Show yet. He was doing MSNBC at the time. Okay. And I remember talking to him and just to everybody, because everybody was there. It was such a wonderful day. So, when you talk about a hard story, but then that was a beautiful story. I hate the reason why it happened, but that was one of the days I will always remember that just filled my heart, being there on that State House grounds when that flag came down and just being in the midst of the emotions,
It's a lot.
That was a lot. It was so golly. It was just, I thought about that the other day, and I thought that must be how some of the civil rights, folks felt when they were finally able to get the right to vote, and maybe when our forefathers finally found out that they were free. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those pivotal moments, I think, not only in the state, but even in the country, because after that, a lot of other states started really addressing their Confederate symbols. So yeah, that was such an amazing time.
And I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge the question from Jay Johnson, and you all might have touched on this a bit, but do you receive any kind of negativity about the information you broadcast as fake news or misinformation? And is that new? Because that's the other thing that I've too been a little long in the tooth with doing news. And while people may not like what you talk about, or they think that, you may be a little biased, I don't think I've ever had anybody prior to this time flat out tell me this is not true. I think it's fake. Are you all getting any of that feedback from stories that you've done or projects that you've worked on?
Not I.
And no, well, that's good. That's good.
No, I mean, I often
I'm wondering,
see it
especially
on,
with Trey, because
well, I was about to say that I often see it on the WIS Facebook page. You know, there are a lot of folks who comment and on several stories, especially political stories, and I from time to time will just kind of click just to see what people are talking about. And sometimes oftentimes you will see folks use that term that has not always been really a term. And so, yes, misinformation, absolutely. Things that were not correct, absolutely. But that term hasn't always been around. So that's been something that we've had to deal with. I think sometimes it's a very quick response to people who don't want to accept some things, maybe some stories.
Michelle, though, you bring up a good point asking that question. Some words of advice: don't read the comment sections.
Right. Yes. And then, you know what? And that's one thing I don't typically do. I won't read them at all. Sometimes I will just to see what people are talking about, but
yeah, that's a cesspool. Those Facebook comments and YouTube comments, that is terrible. Such a cesspool. And
now, Kara, if you asked the question, give me that one more time because I didn't hear it.
Oh, I'll put it in the comments. Yeah, but it's a cesspool. It's it's just and I have to say, it's just people who are cowards. Oh, okay, Michelle's trying to. It's just people that are cowards that
I think it's a delay. I think there's a delay. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's cowards. It's so cowardly to hide behind the screen, to hide behind the keyboard, and say whatever you want to say. But you're right, Kara. That daggone comment section.
Ooh, I mean, it's terrible. It can be terrible.
It's
because
terrible.
I think a lot of people feel now that as if they can hide behind an egg, like on Twitter, or just a profile pic that has no picture on Facebook, and you can say whatever you want to say, as if we're not going to see it, or as if our feelings won't be hurt, things of that nature. They feel as if maybe they're, we're robots or something, or we can just take it. And it's unfortunate sometimes, a lot of times.
And if you're young, if you're watching and you're young, don't do it.
Don't do it. Not worth it at all. Not worth it.
Listen, girl, if you're old and you're watching, don't do it.
Bullying is never nice.
It's never nice.
Because it's not only young people. It's not only young people.
There are a lot of older adults now. I mean, and people my age too. I'm in my 30s, but like late 30s. I'm not all that young, late 30s, but still, I mean, there are a lot of folks out there who feel as if, they can say whatever they want to say. And it doesn't matter at all. When in fact, it does matter.
It does matter. It does matter. And it is
a form of
bullying. Yeah.
And I do want to do, and I never like to end when we're having such great times, but I do need to wrap the conversation. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I want to thank you all again for taking this time to be with us, to share with us, to be a part of the Palmetto Media Connections family. Now, we will have all of our panelists' contact information. We'll flash that on the screen. I wanted to make sure and do a little bit of housekeeping, give away our last prize. It looks like our last prize, which is an Amazon e-gift card, and it goes to Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson, thank you so much.
Congrats, Jay.
That's it. Oh my God! And don't forget, it's not too late. After we close, if you have taken a selfie, we want to make sure that we get your smiling face as part of this year's Media Social. So we certainly appreciate all of that. Now while we cannot tell you how valuable for our panelists the wealth of information that you have given, the warmth that you have shown has been to us. We know we can't repay you for that, but we do have a little token of our appreciation. Of you all will each be receiving a plaque that has your name, just something, a little something to remember the fact that you were able to be a part of what we're doing, and with our gracious thank you for all that you are doing. And one of the things that we do as well at the Media Social, besides eat, which if we could send you some electronic vittles, we would. then we'll save that for 2021. But we also have added an awards portion where we want to make sure that we recognize pioneers in the field, people who have done some wonderful and memorable things. And so this year, our two honorees are Donald Frierson with the Urban Scene and many other entities. I know him from the Urban Scene from the last 25 years, and many of you have probably worked with Don Frierson. And we are giving him our wonderful award for excellence in broadcasting and dedication to the community. We certainly appreciate Don Frierson and all that he has done. And our second awardee for 2020 is Carolina Panorama. Nate Abraham and his family, they created a wonderful legacy in print, and we certainly appreciate what they're doing and their dedication to the community as well. So we will get the plaques to both of our award winners, and we certainly appreciate all of that. Now, again, we have our panelists' contact information that we have as well. And if you want to find out how you can be a part of Palmetto Media Connections, because we don't want to lose the connection, you can like us on Facebook, and you can reach out to us on any of these platforms. We will also send out a thank you email to all of our registrants as well. So again, Kara Gormley, Trey Taylor, Dominus Brown, and Curtis Wilson, thank you so much for all that you have done by blessing us today with your presence and by allowing us to spend some time with you. Any parting remarks really quickly, anything where any breaking news about what's next or anything like that?
Just really appreciate being here, and it's so great to see everybody in one place. I just feel blessed to be here today, so thank you.
Yeah, I echo what Kara says. This has been such an amazing opportunity. Always great to catch up with colleagues, friends, because especially now that, you don't have the opportunity to see each other as much. And I just want to encourage everybody, if you would like to watch Coping with COVID Monday through Saturday at 2 p.m., airing live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19.
Absolutely. And, I love y'all. I love all y'all. So I'm so glad we had this opportunity to chat. And let me tell you, for the young folks who are hopefully on here or might be able to see this later on, just stay encouraged.
Yes.
Stay encouraged. This is a tough business. And also find a mentor, get an internship if you can. Hopefully after COVID has kind of settled down a little bit, some of these stations and other companies will start to allow interns back in. I know ours will not right now, but keep pressing forward. It's not going to be easy, but you can do it. You can do it. But I love y'all. I hate that we have to meet in virtually like this, but hopefully very soon we can all see each other.
Everybody will have a reservation for 2021, so that way we can have a big group hug in 2021.
Absolutely.
Now, Dominus, don't you have an organization that's similar to Palmetto Media Connections? Don't you?
Very similar. Absolutely. We have something called Black Media in the Midlands. And so we often get together just to kind of socialize, but also to talk about certain issues that we do from time to time. And it's not really I guess you could call it a Facebook group kind of organization like that for areas, folks here in the Midlands of South Carolina. But, we're on Facebook. Reach out to me and, we can connect you with a lot of other folks. And that's what we like to do. We like to keep everybody connected. And especially during times like this, it's very hard to see each other. But as long as we can stay connected and even just to say hello or to post something kind of funny, that makes the world of difference.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I just want to say, it's been a pleasure, especially being able to see all of you guys. And even though it is virtual, but it's still a connection to be able to see other folks that I work with in the business. So this is a great thing. And we appreciate you guys for having us here to be able to talk about other things than having to say what we know we have to say as far as news is concerned. But just to be open and loose and also to educate those who don't know, but wanted to know. And hopefully be able to answer a lot of questions that you may have had. And again, want to remind you, we're giving away $1,000 18 times a day, beginning Monday morning, 7 a.m. Big BM.
I love it. You got to get in there.
Absolutely. And of course, if you're watching in the upstate area, so in Greenville, of course, on JAMS, we are honoring our first responders. October 28th is National First Responders Day. And so we're saying, hey, send in the names and pictures of those who are first responders so that we can give them the proper dues, whether they're EMS, fire, law enforcement. Of course, thank you for what you do. Fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, y'all got quiet after that.
Did we lose Michelle?
I think we did. I think we lost Michelle again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, it's so good to see. Oh,
She's trying.
Did we lose
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Oh, lost me.
A little bit. Michelle,
Here she is.
you're back.
Am I back?
Yes. Oh, well.
Lauren, we're just gonna come to you.
We're just gonna come to Lauren and close.
Thank you, people, once again for attending. It's just so wonderful. Diminish, I thank you for all that you do. Kara, thank you for accepting the invitation and being a part of the social. I thank y'all so much. And, again, I would have loved to shake your hand, give you a hug, but
All right. So we're losing Lauren on this one as well. But again, I'm sure he was saying thank you to everybody who was a big part of this. And we thank you for watching as well. And I'm quite sure you stay with them. They'll let you know when the next one is going to be coming up.
and that will continue to watch this. We just ask for traveling mercies. If anybody's traveling, we give you all the honor, praises, and the glory to you, the Most High God. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray, amen. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together, hosting annual socials. We would like to thank you for attending this year's virtual social. Find and like us on Facebook at Palmetto Media Connections and subscribe to the Palmetto Media Connections YouTube channel, connecting media and communities together. Palmetto Media Connections. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Established in 2010 with past national media guests like Janice Huff, Mitch Faulkner, and Dolores Washington, and local celebs like Cynthia Hardy, Miranda Parnell, Vaughn Gaskin, Kevin Cohen, Vanzell Hare, and Makita Pearson, and hosted by Darcy Strickland and Tony G. Palmetto Media Connections in the past has distributed to the community over $1,000 in gift cards. Connect with us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together, hosting annual socials. We would like to thank you for attending this year's virtual social. Find and like us on Facebook at Palmetto Media Connections and subscribe to the Palmetto Media Connections YouTube channel, connecting media and communities together. Palmetto Media Connections. Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Established in 2010 with past national media guests like Janice Huff, Mitch Faulkner, and Dolores Washington.
Can we not hear me?